From there.
Oh,
And so I have it on.
but now I don't get it, so you are welcome.
No, I have like all my notes,
Oh, your notes,
because I did download it.
so how you want to choose to use your trustees site is ultimately up to you, but you can conceivably space access. Trustees, channel, you can get it anytime now. Like you can do that now. See. Makes sense, yeah. So if you put file. And say that.
Oh, yeah. I saved
You
it.
can download a copy now and then upload it and you volume notes and all.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you upload it to the SharePoint site, yeah, oh. It's everywhere.
All right, Ben's on his way in, so I will call to order this second monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Ben, if he has any changes to the agenda. Ben, do you have any changes to the agenda? Okay. Takes us to item number 3, which is our first public comment period. Is there anyone from the public that has been? Oh, well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, nothing to say, but lots to hear.
Okay, so this is not our first meeting of the month is kind of our regular business meeting. This meeting is all about budget, so you're gonna get to hear.
You're gonna be bored.
You're gonna get to hear where we need state assistance. Actually, you might have picked the wrong meeting to come to. There's a very tall soapbox, which I'm more than happy to climb up. Okay, you're good. All right, so item number 4 is our budget working session. My plans, if everyone is okay with it, is to go through the general fund budget tonight. Ask any questions, fill in some lines. There are a number of lines that are the insurance lines in particular. We just got the renewal quotes today, so just getting a chance to fill them in. About a 5% overall year-over-year increase in insurance premium, so not terrible. Certainly better than health insurance and some other lines. So I think it'd be best if we just go through each line, take as much or as little time as everyone wants. We'll fill in some of the lines that aren't filled in based on discussion and assumptions. And then our next budget meeting is next Wednesday. So anything that we need, any questions that we need answered next week will be answered by then. The lines that we know but don't have filled in, like insurance, will be filled in by then. And then I'd like to wrap that up, as well as water and sewer, next Wednesday. And then there's a third budget meeting somewhere in the calendar, kind of as a final wrap up if needed, if you even need it. And there's a fourth budget meeting, which hopefully we definitely need. So that sounds good to everyone. Then we can proceed. I will just say that unencumbered balance, for those of us who like to keep track of it, is relatively healthy. That's as of the fiscal year end in 24, so May 31 of 24. I'm going to have those numbers for anyone who keeps track of that on your own. Then, of course, we know from last year that the total village-wide assessment numbers went up a lot effective last July. So now this is the budget cycle where we see that kick in. So either in print or on screen, I'm just going to start with the 25-26 proposed line. If there are questions about projected actual, where we are over under last year, then just don't wait on me. I've been staring at this for a week, so just jump in. So we'll start with what will be the third line down on everyone's sheet, A1090, which is the interest and penalties on real property taxes. On my spreadsheet, I've entered 6,500, which is a little less than we budgeted last year. Looks like we'll come in around 6,700. We budgeted 7,000 last year. I don't mind leaving it at 7,000. But I also don't mind being conservative and lowering that slightly. It assumes that there will be the same number or even slightly fewer delinquent village taxpayers. And maybe it's not a safe assumption. It tends to be pretty steady every year. Specific. In fact, as I look at it,
So that should be that projected actual from 23-24. Where it's not populated in the actual, but it should be that because it was based on what I sent to the county in October of 23-24, right? So you can assume it was 7,000 in 23-24 and then 6,017 in 24-25.
right, well, that would have been whatever was re-levied.
Correct.
Right.
What was the previous?
What was 22-23?
Yeah, what was re-levied in the fall of 23?
7,000.
So maybe let's leave that
Leave
at
it.
7,000. Pretty standard.
Is that at all related to like a percentage of taxes? I'm just thinking if taxes are, if assessments went up, I don't know.
So it's the penalty is some percentage of the levy of property.
Mhm.
So if the total, even if rates go down, but the assessment goes up, and the levy dollar stays the same,
Right.
the person chooses not to pay it.
So it depends on what we come up with at the end of for the levy.
Right. Yeah, let's
Probably
leave-
not worth worrying about a few $100.
Yeah.
Not-
yeah, let's use on that. On the next line down, sales tax looks like it's projecting. The 265,679 number projects to 455 and change. We had budgeted 465, so we're not too far off. But I think we should just use 455,000 as that number, rather than guessing high. Based on where we see things coming in. If everyone's okay with that. Utilities gross receipts is the same every year, that's contractual. That should stay at 40. Clerk fees, Jessica's only gonna be, 400 seems fine, although we usually keep that around 500, but what do you?
It's basically all tax searches, but you can, I feel like they're starting to do more of that online because they can find out that information on their own tax plans there, and that's been the reality in the town. We do less tax searches since they've been online.
Police fees. Joe has us at 1,500. Police vest reimbursement money at 500. Again, stop me if I'm going through something we want to discuss. Police crossing guard reimbursement, that's the amount we get back from the school for the South Street crossing guard. Fire inspection fees. It's annual fire inspections on commercial property. Police contracts. This is grassroots, I believe. No change planned for this year. Zoning fees is an estimate. It's a Tom estimate, I believe. Operating permits the same. Planning board fees the same. Stop DWI, that's a static number. Of course, we have our contracts with the towns for fire and EMS.
Sorry, actually go back to stop WWI for a second. Have we gotten that? It just looks like it's
It's a grant, so it sort of matches out on an expense line on below, so if we
Okay,
apply for the funds and get it, then we get reimbursed. We don't spend them until we get it.
I see.
I think it's paid in the spring.
So this is in expectation of a grant, but we may not get it, and so.
And so we won't spend it unless we.
Got it.
It's a county program. I think you just have to submit.
Yeah.
Basically, you agree to work with the sheriff's department on.
Yeah.
Various,
Alright,
which they don't do as often, the classic DWI stop checkpoint
Mhm.
stuff. But there is some county money that's set aside for that. Fire and EMS, that's revenue. That's already been received. For calendar 2025. So that's plugged into our 25-26 budget. Interest and earnings, this is interest and earnings in the general fund. Which is,
Just against trust.
and then we have interest on reserve accounts. This is where we have most of our reserve funds sitting out at NICLAS. Which has done quite well. You'll see the year to date is 49,640, which projects to 85. We had budgeted 80 last year. Rates are down a little, but not a lot. So I think plugging in 80,000 there for this budget year makes sense. I don't think I would decrease that much.
And did you want to leave the little checking account A2401 just also at 0? Seems like we typically don't project that interest.
Yeah, you could make that 0.
And I'm sorry, you just said keep 80,000 for.
I would.
Mhm.
We're gonna come in at 85. I don't think I want to bump it up to 85. But I also don't know that it's necessary to drop it.
Okay.
Rental wireless should stay the same. That's contractual.
Can I ask a question about that one? Which is that, and maybe it just requires more research on my part, but there was independent wireless. Was something that we were slated to get 14,000 from, but we did not receive. So if you look at 23-24 audited versus the adopted, it's short. 28,000 from what was projected at 40,000 because we did not receive that 14.6 from something called independent wireless. So I'm wondering if you look at my projection, it would assume that we were going to get that, but then when I looked back, we didn't get it from the other one, and I don't know.
You're gonna have to research that.
Okay,
Find out why that's not received, because all of that is by contract.
yeah, okay.
Wasn't that one, Ben, that you did it? Didn't we have a contractor that was looking into all of those contracts? We had like a third party. Am I remembering that right?
we had someone review gross receipts tax.
It's cable fees.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what I'm
Yeah.
remembering?
Yeah, I don't think, anyone was looking at, because they're all individual
Yeah,
wireless companies. I don't think we've touched that.
well, these are contracts for use of water tower for.
Right, right.
Yeah, we had that outside group. Find out whether we were actually getting paid what Spectrum was supposed to be paying us a few years ago.
Okay, all right.
Might have still been time.
Okay, I'll look into that contract.
Building permits, that is a Tom estimate, down from last year because of the more or less completed construction at 46 South. Let's see. The last few lines on this first printed page are placeholders for situations where we actually sell property or have insurance recoveries. The next line that I have anything filled in for is mulch dial truck. Which stays at 2,500. We don't really ever see very much increase there. AIM.
State revenue sharing for AIM.
One of, it's not really a big soapbox. It's only 12,550. AIM funding is set to stay the same, I believe, in the governor's budget, although we would always love to see more assistance to municipalities. Mortgage tax, this is a moving target. Mortgage tax is going to come in relatively well under our estimates because there's no inventory for sale. So when nothing sells, there's no mortgage tax applied to it. I'm gonna suggest 15,000 for this next budget year. In the anticipation that there'll be some sales. Well, I understand there's a lovely half-acre parcel at Crescent Way that hit the market this morning. For anyone in the market,
That's exciting.
I won't tell you how much it is. You'll be less excited when you hear the number. Chips, 90,000 is money in, money out. Do you know if there's, because I know we doubled up on chips last year. Do you know if
Right.
that much changed?
I don't think so. I'm trying to pull up the. So we looked at. Why don't I take that as a double check with Dusty? They are understanding more and more about chips and where it can be used beyond just paving. And so they're considering it as an option for some equipment purchases. But I don't think they've decided. So I chat with Dusty tomorrow, so I'll bring it up with him.
Okay.
The farmers market lines are mostly filled in based on their budgeting. We've expended all of the sidewalk ban, is that right, Jess?
Yes.
Okay, so that line can stay zeroed out, and then we've got our EMS billing line, which I think we should keep the same at 150. Hopefully Joel can increase that some, but for now, it looks like we're coming in pretty close this year. So we may as well keep it the same. So that's on the revenue side. Any comments or questions there? Concerns?
Nope.
Okay. Expenses. Village board.
That's where we have our annual conversation about.
That's where you have your annual conversation about what you want to pay yourselves.
I think the village board deserves a raise.
We've gone
We
around
have gone without one for a long time.
incredibly long time. We've gone around on a conversation. Last time we talked about, I think the most compelling argument in my mind is that not that we, the people here necessarily, though maybe also deserve, but more that it makes it a position that more people can.
More of an incentive for people to want to serve.
Yeah, or even just possible, right? If you're coming
Right.
here and you need to get childcare for this to work
Mhm.
out, or whatever it might be, like. It's not a lot to try and make it offset any sort of cost you have in your personal space to try and
Right.
join the board, so.
And as you can vouch, it's many, many hours depending on
Right,
what you're assigned to do and what you're, yeah.
yeah, no, we've talked about how that even the small amount that it is has made the difference
Yeah.
between someone being.
Well,
able to
we're not
provide.
worthy, Ben, for all the hours that you guys put in for sure.
But I think, it's important to recognize that some people wouldn't be able to be on this board if it was not paid.
Right.
And so even the small amount makes a difference, and a larger amount would make a difference. And in a year where, well, I don't know, I want to get to that.
Do you have a number in mind, anyone?
I second all of that, but I would suggest that we leave it where it is. Come back. See what we
See
look
what
like
we've
at the
got.
end, right? I mean, my inclination, to be perfectly frank about it, is to let this off until an election year when we can make this, and I don't have to feel like I'm raising my own salary, right? Or at least without a referendum, a sort of de facto referendum on that decision. It feels weird. I know it's a tiny piece, right? I know this is an almost negligible piece of our budget. But to me, that would sort of be my preference. If we have room to come back and make that without any stress on the rest of the budget, that would be my preference.
We're not gonna not have stress, right?
True. That is,
We
that is
always-
probably true.
Rates always go up. Cost of
And we
living
always
goes up.
feel weird about it, but
I don't feel weird about it necessarily, but I do feel. I mean, we had this conversation last year, and I think exactly what Ben said is true, right? We need people to be able to justify joining this board. Right, we talked, I think initially Roden didn't want to take a salary at all, which I think is exceptionally selfless and fantastic, but the reason that we kept that in and convinced.
Total precedent.
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah,
the
it
reason that we
is.
kept that in is we sort of had this conversation, and it was like, we need an incentive to take these positions, even, you know.
And to say it out for anyone who comes across is like, it's 5 for trustees, 7.5 for deputy mayor, and 10 for mayor. But that's I'm not talking about breaking the bank. So I think, what, at one point we had talked about, I want to say like 6, 9, and 12, or like 8, 10, and 12, or something like that. I can't remember. We had come up with some numbers at one point that we had talked about. I don't remember.
Honestly remember.
Yeah.
I remember the sort of conceptual conversation.
Yeah.
Not numbers, although probably we had this exact conversation last time and the decision was the same, which is to defer. Maybe
Right.
that's what it was. And maybe that's what gets us stuck in this every time.
Yeah, my only comments, and I'm happy to come back to it later, my only comments are that I do think it's fair to be compensated for the amount of work we've been. However, if you're really talking about paying enough to really incentivize people to want to join, I don't think we can pay that.
No,
I think it's less justified. I like the way that Ben framed it, right? That it's less incentive rather, that it's more enable, right? If you have childcare that you have to do to get here. You know, if you have to internally justify the hours that you're taking off, right? Like I'm now in a position where I have to take PTO to do work for the village, which I never had to do before, but is unique to me. So I can actually make that calculation and say, you know, this is what it costs. So I think it's more about that, right? It's more about,
Yeah.
how do we make this at least sort of value neutral financially for the members of this board, so that we can have people come here without feeling like it's a volunteer fall on your sword sort of situation, right? Like, I'm gonna take one for the team.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good, conceptually at least, that's a good target. I think you're right, though, like, we're never gonna incentivize. I mean, if we calculated our hourlies, it's not good. This is, I mean, these numbers would have to increase tenfold at least, just to catch up, and that's not doable by any stretch.
My only other 2 thoughts for consideration is, if memory serves, the last time these rates were changed was in 2013. And it was primarily to bump the deputy mayor number.
Yeah.
Because Deb Watkins was doing so much work with the water project.
Although I think I think it was 35 for trustees at that point. And we went to 5, I believe.
It changed.
So it was the whole thing, yeah. But you're right, that is my memory too, that Deb was heavily involved in, yeah, water and sewer both at the same time. I mean, she was drowning in work.
And then my only other thought is, we get every year NICOM sends out a spreadsheet with all of the board and all the village board level salaries statewide. You could sort it any which way. And we're right about, I would say, in the upper third.
Hmm.
And we're right in the average for a municipality our size. So we're not
That's something.
too far off. So I think it would be hard to justify doubling these numbers.
yeah.
But $1,000 here or there probably is justifiable. Okay, well, we can come back to that.
Think about 6, 9, and 12. We do. I feel like that's an increase, kind of keeps, makes some sort of, I don't know, they're nice numbers, and it would total be $6,500 extra on the total budget.
Okay. Village board contractual, I think same, unless board members have plans for conferences or training of any kind.
Looks like we should start making those plans based on our historic usage of that line.
Mayor contractual, I'm fine with leaving zeroed out for now. Auditor contractual, I don't know that we've heard of a change coming our way from Wayne.
We have not, but you'll see. That we have not hit the target budget 2 years in a row. So we are less this year than we were last year.
So let's leave that at 15. in case they get us a bump. All of the payroll lines that are entered reflect a 3%
Correct.
increase. So we have clerk treasurer, deputy. That should be deputy.
Those lines are just gonna look screwy for another year.
Clerk treasurer equipment. Clerk treasurer contractual, what's that?
So last year that, or for this year that we're in, that was the bookkeeper.
Ah.
We don't have that, and so I wasn't sure what we wanted to, I didn't want to project that. Without speaking to the board and seeing.
How are you feeling as far as current staffing in the front office?
If you look, current staffing in the front office is great. I wonder if we want to consider the notion that archiving, digitally archiving upstairs. Might be a 3-month project for somebody. That's something you had mentioned before, which could fall in that line, and would be, I could project that out pretty easily. Because I can't imagine us doing that
Right,
well,
no, that would be hiring somebody.
but it
Hiring
also isn't
somebody.
necessarily complicated. At a firm,
So you know,
could be a body, but a
you know
firm,
that Toshiba offers that as a service, an add-on service to our contract.
yeah,
Mm.
it's slick, that, I
It's not a
mean,
lot.
it's not a lot. I mean, I think it would be worth it, whether you're, yes, and then they're a trusted agent, right? Toshiba is a must confidentiality, something, and it's public information anyway, but because we're not gonna photocopy the payroll records. I think if this board wanted to see that happen in the next fiscal year, that's what I would imagine putting in. That line, because no, I don't think we need other assistants in the office. The other thing that could be, that you might consider funding that line for is. If we wanted to make any change in software. But that has not been planned, that's, I don't foresee switching. Billing software for anything, right now, or accounting software next year, that requires some research, I think. Those are the things I can think. Do you want me to put on my list and see with the Toshiba, because I actually don't have that number in my brain of
Why don't you find out if they can give you kind of a
what a scanning service would be.
general quote? And then let's just as a placeholder, let's put in 10,000.
Okay,
And I'll make a note for scanning, archive scanning services. Jen did get a quote, but that's now 2 years old from somebody. I don't know who. Okay, you'll quote that out. I don't remember what it was, actually. She did. So that's a starting point, then I can find out.
I would think at this point that most of those scanning things are gonna do optical character recognition, so you can like search stuff, but make sure that that's part of it.
Yeah. So you said put in 10,000.
Clerk treasurer training.
It is more than last year because we checked out real hotel rates.
That next line is basically blacked out. The deputy clerk treasurer personal, that was a different position. That was when we had a clerk and a separate treasurer and then a third person. We can leave that zeroed out. Some of these lines just need to be renamed. Deputy clerk personal law, let's keep that at 10.
Okay.
Engineer.
And did you have a question about the engineer? Are you gonna ask,
Um,
or was that a DPW engineer question?
that was DPW. I don't think I had anything more that we're chatting with MRP tomorrow. But I think we talked through what they have. What we have on the books, and I think it's only the stormwater management piece that was
Okay,
which is under DPW section somewhere.
So the overage this year is due in large part to. Which,
6 is Village Grove, 18,000 is the fire and EMS building. I would have to split up the rest of the ledger to understand why that's 28,000.
So all of the fire and EMS stuff should be held aside because we can get reimbursed them.
Okay,
That piece
okay.
at some point.
I can easily look at the ledger if you want to see what the other,
Just as long as it's categorized, we have it.
oh, yeah, no, I mean, if you want to see what the remaining,
So let's leave that at 12,500 for now. So we have a reason specifically about that. Elections contractual, there is an election next spring. Building personnel. Maybe that's in there. Building equipment, I don't think we have any plans to buy anything for the village office equipment wise, do we?
we do not.
Office building contractual, that's supplies, you know? Generally.
Yeah, it's supplies and a lot of stuff. It's AccuData fee, it's,
So let's leave that the same number as last year. This year made aware of a
I'm not.
raise in fees coming from somewhere.
Mm-mm.
Buildings, maintenance and repair.
The roof? Is this where we talk about the roof? Budgeting for the roof? Which I think that.
Oh,
it
we
Discuss
could,
doing in sections.
it could be, when I talked to Dusty about it. It didn't seem like it was gonna be terribly expensive, and we were talking about it coming out of. Building reserves, but if we wanna make a line out of it, we certainly could. I'd have to get the actual number from him, I don't
And I
remember,
think
I
he
wanna
was-
say it was around 5 to 10, though, it was not.
Cause he was thinking about doing it in sections.
Rather take the reserves.
Okay, so the,
We can bump our reserve contribution if we need to a little.
Okay.
okay,
I think that, I seem to remember there being quite a bit in reserves, when we were talking about a few $1,000s, less than 10 for. Cause we can do it in-house, so it's mostly for materials.
did I not report on the building reserve line? I did not see it in my reserve sheet. Let me find that number
It's
for
in-
us.
It's a,
It is? I see DPW building.
It's in the same
Village
sheet.
office building, A 2
Oh, there, thank you. Okay, oh, okay, so that makes us happy. Okay, good. Great.
so building maintenance and repairs, to me, that's. Smaller incidental stuff. So I think we can.
I mean, yeah, there's. So part of the 27 spent already is 800 that should be reimbursed from. The police station repair, but. That's presuming that. Person gets it, I mean, it was. It's an, the unaudited position for that was over in. 2023, 24 as well. I would recommend you do 3,000.
Okay, do 3,000 there. Gas and electric, up to 6,000, looks good, building insurance,
I get to populate that now, right?
right. That's
This
stuff,
week.
that's stuff Eric sent us.
Yeah,
Building IT contractual, this is. The upgrades we want.
yeah, this is a $500 remaining that was already approved. Not remaining, already approved, apologies. $500 for fixing a panel patch that didn't get included on the phase 2 that was completed. And then phase 3, which I sent everyone in an email. Which is the $11,000 approximately to upgrade the actual server computer to replace it. Should we want to, or should you want to? And then the rest is the real cost. If you click on that, if you click on what, that's the Y square there. You can see the formula in the top. So that's what it's running. 845 plus 845 plus 120 times 12 months. That's the actual IT cost. And then you have the 1,600 above that, if you want to do the panel server upgrade. Which all those words make sense. 845 is the Microsoft licensing, and 845 is what they're charging us just to maintain the servers. And then about every month, we've had $120 in extra efforts on their part to troubleshoot somebody something, or they left a firewall open, they left themselves exposed. So base cost would be 33 less 1,600.
Any questions on that? So that's 33. Correct. Comp, let's see, we got that number.
Yeah.
Phone. Web design, is that the new fee?
Yeah, it
Yes.
looks like you've got, let's see the note there.
Central garage, that's DBW. Equipment lines, we got a new roadside mower.
They're asking for there.
Building repairs. That'll be contractual, no real changes there. Building repairs came down, that's good. Gas and electric. Training. Fuel.
Oh, no, I don't have the dues line.
These are the same, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what I was curious to say, yeah.
Which brings us to police personnel. Bump. So walk me through the calculation on the bump.
Okay,
We have been budgeting for 3 full-time.
Joanna, do you want to feel that, or do you want me to look at my lease budget?
I think you need to look at.
Okay,
We have been budgeting for 3 full-time.
so
We're now gonna have 3 full-time at least 1, 2. At a lower salary band than
let me pull up the sheet for you. You wanna, just give me a second, I don't wanna rush to make sure, I wanna make sure I have the right sheet.
Personnel services is only salary?
flag it. We come back.
Can we flag it and I'll find it?
Yeah.
Just curious about that, unless Chief put these numbers together before.
It was after he and I talked, so I don't have a change right now.
Before
Okay,
our recent resignation.
Okay. That would make sense.
I'm comfortable with what I just found. So we are looking at, that is definitely true. But
Calculations were done before the resignation.
yeah,
So why don't you rework those with Chief tomorrow
okay,
using the
but it,
recurrent?
unless he, okay, let me, and, what if he comes back with, no, I think that's what we would end up needing to hire somebody at.
I think
Then
just
he'll
copy
come
me
back
on
with that.
the
then that's what he says and you move forward. Yeah, okay,
I don't know about that.
yeah, okay, but I mean, whatever, then it's a discussion, okay, okay, Joanne. But it is assuming, just for your reference now, it's assuming 2 full-time police officers as they exist. And then getting a 3rd full-time officer. And keeping the part-time sergeant, keeping the police clerk.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the position. I'm talking
Oh,
about the
okay.
Pay rate,
Okay,
because if he's calculating it based on
yeah, it definitely is, yeah,
a certain individual who was at a different pay band.
yeah.
Mhm.
And what about the other individual that's at the same pay band? We shouldn't anticipate that there would be a change there either, right?
But worse, I don't anticipate we would hire that pay band.
Okay. Okay.
Especially not when we just hired at a lower pay band.
Got it.
All right, police equipment is unchanged, police training is unchanged, police fuel is bumped a little. Police vehicle maintenance is unchanged, police insurance is TBD. Police training. Police workers' comp. Police telephone, police small equipment, it's going up slightly. Police uniform vests. And traffic control, contractual, that's physical.
Which is an interesting line that sort of is shared by DPW and police, because it covers things like the street signs and the radar signs, and so. I don't think either department was comfortable projecting that, or did I?
Really seen any volatility in that line, so I think we can leave it the same.
Okay. There is a nice collaboration about spending.
Okay. Again, jump in if anyone has any comments on any of these. Fire department is preset. Thanks to our fall meetings with the towns. Slide all the way down to gear management. We should keep the same at 5,000. Safety inspection. What I asked Jessica to budget was for 1.5 people beginning. Well, technically it would be beginning July 1. 1.5 people from July 1 through the end of the calendar year. And then reducing to 1 person only full-time at that point. I gave Jessica a specific wage band to use for the full-time. We will remain past through the end of the year. We need to tweak that a little, depending on applicants and whatnot. So that's what you see reflected in these lines, and why the numbers are slightly different.
I think we talked about this, where is that band? Because I see it in here in relation to the current employee.
Lower. So 58 to 60.
Yeah.
But that's spread out a little bit differently. So we have code enforcement taking on more when we get to zoning.
It's sort of split in half as it was. In the past between code and zoning.
Yeah. So the slight increase that you see is not as large as it would be at 1.5 times last year's number. So that's what we see in that safety inspection, personal services, that's code enforcement. Equipment is unchanged. Contractual line has come down slightly. Training has gone up a lot. And let's talk about that for a second.
Yep, so that anticipates that the new code officer is required to have 6 trainings. Which then you had now, as soon as I'm saying it, we're thinking that might not be the case if who gets in that position, but it's assuming 6 trainings for 3 nights.
So this number is assuming we have to certify the code officer.
Yeah,
So let's take that right out. Let's
okay,
make
so
that-
then you can make it 1,500. Okay. I wonder if I should say. I'll leave that as. Okay,
Code legal,
yeah,
code legal. It's 2.
there was lots of activity this year that required. Like condemning and some questions.
Right.
So,
I'd probably make that 2,500.
okay,
See the level of activity that we saw this year.
it could probably be 350. I just got squirrely about the fuel lines being under projected.
500 is fine.
Okay.
EMS.
EMS,
Hey,
the big
hey,
numbers.
hey. Again, numbers that were preset last fall. If there's a single takeaway from tonight. Is that the state can't possibly do enough to help municipalities with ambulance. There is legislation that's been introduced the last couple of years. I know Michelle Hitchie's introduced it on the Senate side. And Anna Kellis has introduced it on the Assembly side. And I know the governor mentioned in her budget some things that are, it's moving in the right direction, but very, very slowly. It needs to be faster. We are, especially in rural upstate New York, in real danger of actually not having ambulance. And if you or anyone in your office wants detail, we can shower you with detail.
Great, that's an issue that's high on my portfolio, so details are great for that.
Be happy to talk to anyone who will listen about how much a small municipality like Trumansburg is spending on providing ambulance coverage outside our district. So it's getting to the point where people are, elected officials are starting to ask some questions that are uncomfortable. And by uncomfortable, I mean, if we're responding into the city of Ithaca several times a week, and the city of Ithaca doesn't have an ambulance department, that means they're not contributing to the cost of that.
Yeah.
And folks in the city don't really want to have that conversation.
I'm from Dryden.
There you go.
I know what you
Yeah, Dryden ambulance responding even more than we do.
Yeah.
So the dangerous, if you're from Dryden, then you understand the dangerous. The headline I don't want to wake up one morning and see is that because Dryden or Trumansburg refused to respond to a call, that somebody died.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at. So yeah, there are formulas, there are things that Albany could do to solve this,
Mhm.
like really solve it. And it would cost, I don't know, what did Michelle say? 7/10 of the state budget. But that means a new spending line. So anything that your office can do to help would be great.
I'm not the legislative person, but I can absolutely make this the headline of the memo that I write for sure. And-
Beautiful.
Yes, that would be so helpful.
Much appreciated.
Was there somebody in the waiting room or am I also super?
Oh,
loaded?
there is.
Both could be true.
Okay. So ambulance. Let's see, monitor lease.
It is in there.
Ambulance legal,
Hmm.
I'm okay with leaving the budget in. I expect this to be resolved at some point. Which takes us back to DPW. Street administration personal. I have an equipment number, Dusty, for that, and we're not buying anything this year. Street maintenance equipment.
That's. So also. Hold on, checking the.
We haven't spent anything out of that line in the last couple of years. I think it's.
Yeah, I don't, it's blacked out. I don't think it's even in the spreadsheet. He and I were working on it.
Street maintenance contractual, what's that, salt?
Yes,
Chips, so this has got to be whatever we put up top.
Right. I'll get this from Dusty tomorrow or shortly thereafter. Still look at
yeah,
it.
okay.
Let's see, snow removal personnel.
That's my calculation, by the way, the 12,000. Just because. And I did double check in case you all didn't know, that really does represent overtime hours for snow removal or off. Overtime or weekend on call. So if it happens during regular operational hours, it's just what they're doing that day.
But we're only 86.25 through, what is that, end of December?
Yeah. November and December, so.
They've been busy recently.
Why don't we
And
make that,
the cycle is like this.
why
That's
don't
what
we
I look
make that,
back.
why don't we make that 10,500? Instead of 12.
Okay, okay. The cycle goes something like 3,000, 13,000, 4,000, maybe 15,000.
Right.
Okay,
So we'll average out over time,
okay,
but wages go up, so we'll bump it a little bit each year.
okay. 10,005 is less than we budgeted last year.
Hmm?
We budgeted 10,700 for snow removal personnel last year. You just said 10,500 unless I
Probably.
misunderstood.
Then let's make that
11. Turn it up to 11. Budget
snow
fuel.
removal equipment. Snow removal.
No, that's.
So I was wrong.
that's
So salt, that is the salt I apologize. So street maintenance contractual, I can tell you what went in there this year, but or last year, but I don't know.
Street lighting contractual. That is. The main street lights, yeah.
What?
Does that not include the other lights?
It does. It's Main Street, it's all the street lights.
Yeah, that's,
So we have some new street lights.
is that electricity for it or is that the?
Yes,
And I'm assuming the maintenance contract, maybe? I would just, I don't know where that comes out of.
let me look at that, because actually, it's the NIPA contract, I can't answer that.
Yes.
That was because we just got our first bill for, okay, so let me look at that.
Oh, okay. Just got our first bill and we're already in renewals for that.
Sidewalk contractual, that's mainly maintenance and repairs.
It is,
Sidewalk corridor, yeah.
I think that's. Haven't you,
Wow.
the sidewalk contractual
Yeah, it's Dusty's general, this is the amount he plans to
To
do
do.
to keep section of the repairs.
right? No, yeah, that's right.
Project.
We had talked at one point about kind of a tree maintenance sort of somewhat similar program for sidewalk. I don't know if that's. a Conversation we want to bring back up now or in the budget conversations.
Along the same lines as what we came up with for trees with helping people replace.
Yeah, we had talked briefly about that a month or two back. I can't recall honestly where we got with that conversation.
What we got was a 4,000 word response.
That's right. We did do that
So I'm
from our friendly lawyer.
I'm stuck on that. I don't move forward.
From who?
Got from Guy.
Uh,
I I'd be curious to read it if you're willing to share, but
Would you actually share it with me too? I wonder how it compares to the tree, because similar experience with the tree, with that program. I don't know if you remember, but I mean, that was like,
Very similar tone, but I think a bit more teeth in this one because of the public usage versus a tree, which isn't. Public isn't climbing a tree, the public is walking on the sidewalk.
Wouldn't that imply less teeth? Wouldn't that give us more leverage or more cause to justify that as a public good?
But more concern over how that public dollar is spent.
Oh, I see. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Uneven.
Right, yeah. Or poorly, right? Like,
I'll just forward you.
yeah, okay, I see where that goes. I hadn't thought that through. That's why we have Guy.
Any recourse to. Picking, choosing, frankly, is what it comes down to. Good spots to reimburse for. sidewalk.
yeah, that's true.
Also some control of the quality of the output, right? That is, I mean, that's where my mind went, is that we're liable then. Right, if we've invested, are we liable for the outcomes? Right.
Probably have to be some sort of like reimbursable sort of thing, whatever. But
It's a fun read.
Oh, they always are.
All right, let's. Youth Commission. We have any person.
We don't, but the Youth Commission has planned for a 3% increase. Which
I'm
I-
sorry, did you skip 3 falls?
Oh, sorry.
And
Yeah, your
TTR
spreadsheet and my spreadsheet are. Oh, it's the same. Okay, so
I'm sorry.
TCR, I'm happy to leave zeroed out
Okay,
unless anyone has a
all right now.
concern about that. After our conversation last year. 3 Falls, I would like to see at 30,000.
okay,
Youth Commission, you said 3%.
Yeah, which I have not done the math on, but I assume.
3% over actual.
5,
Yeah.
Okay. 3% over budgeted last year or actual this year?
Last year's.
Budgeted
Budget.
37, we paid 36, it's 3% over which? Last year's budget.
Is what we paid after the reimbursement, after the reconciliation.
Yeah, after
So
that,
the
yeah.
budgeted after 3% over budget.
Over budgeted, not actual. Okay.
38,168.
Me too.
All right, we're getting into the
Fun stuff.
fun stuff. Are we supposed to have any reporting or paperwork? I can't remember if from the community groups or whatever.
I told them that I would just email them for for an informal report on what they spent the money on. This year going in, if you guys would rather have them have a specific. I mean, obviously the food pantry is, they're gonna buy food. That's what they do. They use it towards the you know, they belong to the Southern Tier Food Bank, and then they use that money to purchase food.
Have we gotten a formal request from the library for this year, Jess?
We sent them yes, and they've also will come to any meeting that we want.
No, I was just thinking if they sent the form, the official letter of request.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Mark, we have contracts that they signed saying that they would need to meet these parameters if they were going to be funded. You signed it, they signed it.
And
So you
did they
want-
get their checks?
They have not gotten their checks yet. You
Okay.
want an
My
additional.
understanding is that since the library was built. They have sent a letter every year saying, we would like you to contribute $5,000, and I've never not seen that letter come in.
So then I'll need to check and see. if
Maybe they're
that-
confused as to since we changed things and we sent those
that
contracts out for them to sign, maybe they're just assuming.
They also maybe have
That
sent
was
it
the
for.
last-
Yeah,
That was,
right.
so I think it would be helpful if they would just send the formal letter of request.
Okay,
And in that letter, if they want to say what they spent last year's money on it.
Right, why don't we do that?
for all of these, or just the library?
No, for all of them, because I did contracts for all of them.
And to be fair, for people listening in the audience, it is very possible that the library already did send that and I'm missing the timeline. Okay. Yeah, letters of
Keep,
formal
should keep it,
request.
we know what the vendors spend money on, but.
Right,
to keep it
but
consistent, it should go out.
Letters of formal request, and then they can send updates.
In the letter of formal request, it could say, and last year we spent.
Okay. Great.
So just a note, Laura had reached out, I talked to you about. it a
yes,
couple
and
months
she had
ago.
emailed me to, yes, and she got we got the contracts to her and everything. As soon
Yeah,
as you
it was-
said that, I made sure that that was done.
That was for the budget year we're in.
Right,
This is for next budget.
right, exactly.
So.
Right,
So I think to be fair, when she reached out to me, it was an initial like, what's happening?
Right.
Kind of a reach out. It was, I think we sent sort of shockwaves through those couple of
And I
previously funded, so they
have
were.
since communicated with her as well.
Okay.
So once Jess sends out this email to everybody for the contractual stuff, then we'll be all set and we can just generate the same contract that we had for
Okay.
this last budget season and everybody signs it and gets their money.
Okay,
I would also suggest we keep the dollar amounts the same.
Yes.
So the. Other preference.
okay.
Village historian, who we are in search of.
We still don't have one, huh?
Don't know anyone. I'd like to keep that the same.
Okay.
There is some conversation with the town about possibly a combined town village historian. Can pool our resources that way.
And I would recommend keeping their contractual, it's for publications.
Keep both those lines the same.
Okay.
What was that last year? 200?
Yeah, 150's been spent to date. Which is probably it, there might be another.
Okay, so then we're in the farmer's market. So based on their budget. TC. 6,000, that's Winterfest, yeah.
That's Winterfest, that's Porch Fest for $3,000, and then we do actually need to. Get the seasonal banners. Which might be paid for this year, but we are concerned that we might need to replace some. The other ones, and then also if we have it purchased for snowflakes, because we don't have quite enough to make the downtown bright. So continuing the already existing programs, there's no new program in there. Okay, so food net stays at 1,000.
Yes, same information.
And pantry.
Takes us to zoning. Yeah, 1.5 people. Contractual.
Okay.
Didn't spend any zoning legal money, huh?
No, but that's all, it's also an interesting, like, what's zoning and what's code, so.
Well, this is supposed to be ZBA. Specifically,
Not if the zoning officer has something to do with it. But we haven't, no, we haven't spent it.
this would be need for legal counsel at the ZBA.
Oh, good, then I'm using it appropriately. We have not spent.
We still don't have a planner.
I'd give it up.
Keep the line just.
We're doing okay with all of us running around a little bit overworked and MRB stepping in places.
I mean, really, if you think about it, not to get off. I'm gonna take a break from staring. 30 seconds. The CPCR really took place. Planner probably would have done most. Yeah, not the professional planning piece, the considerations of. Some of
I think there's right. I think it did a lot of the pressing issues. I think there's still an argument that there's some kind of forward looking. Get out ahead of things, sort of thinking and planning that is not being done. But you know, we've struggled so hard at trying to find someone who would take that role at that pay for those hours. It's nearly an impossible ask. The only thought is to combine with the town, but my understanding is their planner is kind of at full capacity, so it would be second planner, it's hard, we're in that weird spot, it's hard to justify.
There's been a fair bit of push from TCOG onto county planning to assist the small municipalities, because we're basically all the same.
Yeah,
None of us is gonna hire a true planner at
Right.
the wage that they command. It's hard to find two municipalities close enough to split that cost for a little bit of benefit. But if county planning make a dedicated employee available to all the small municipalities, that could potentially go a long way. County resources. As we are.
the trick there is, how do they either come up to speed on everything that we're doing and find out a way to be